Um, all right, this is State of Mind. If you like what you see, just subscribe. Hit this little button right here. Okay. Um, who do we have today on State of Mind? We have. I consider him an icon from General Hospital. He's Emmy Award winning actor, Tristan Rogers, and I'm just excited you're here, man. I just want. Look, this is going to be a different state of mind today. It's going to be more of a storytelling state of mind because there's things that I want to know, and more of a fun state of mind. Anything that has to do with mental health, will let me get into it, but that's what I want today. Thank you. What's
There
up,
you
brother?
go.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing just great.
You're from.
Melbourne,
How
Australia.
is Australia, man?
You mean compared to here?
Well, yeah, I would love to go to Australia because I know there's cockatoos, kangaroos. I'm all big on animals.
Okay, we got a lot of them.
So, but I won't, well, I don't really, I can't really go because it's too far
Why?
because I don't like to fly.
Oh, then you got a problem.
You know, I don't know what it is about Tristan, but actually Tony Gary was the same way. They make me laugh, man. And I don't know what it is. And I don't know. Anyway, look, here's the thing.
Okay.
We'll get into a little bit of mental health real quick, and so that way we could. Um, the reason I don't like to fly is I've gotten off two planes because of what was it, one plane, but then I didn't get on the because of anxiety.
Okay.
Okay, and it's bad. But I've flown. It took me 10 years at one point to fly. But I
Okay.
have flown, and it doesn't matter how big the plane is, how big first class is. It always seems like a little can about
Got
this
it.
big, and it's very scary. Um,
I mean, I hate flying too. It's a fact of life,
oh, really?
but I hate it. I don't like getting on a plane. I'd rather take a bus.
Really? Is it anxiety or is it no? Just hate.
Just knowing that the damn thing can fall out of the sky at any goddamn fucking minute and that I can't do a thing about it.
Yeah, but see, mine's not that. Mine's claustrophobic.
Oh,
I'm not afraid of dying on the thing. It's claustrophobic, and
Okay.
but you know, but I have flown since then. So Australia, I want to know what it was like as a kid, whatever, growing up in Australia. I just want to.
I had a really good childhood. We, at the time, were living in what was considered then a pretty lousy area. Nowadays, that area, you couldn't get an outhouse for less than $3 million because it's
Wow,
really the area to live in now. But back then, no.
really?
So my parents saved and saved and saved and bought a house in a development area, which was new, called South Caulfield. And we all moved over there. I went to a new school, started a whole new life. And, uh, you know, nothing really exceptional happened at that particular point. Things kind of changed after I left school in '64. I was going to what was called a grammar school. It was a public school paid for by the public, real expensive, and in my case, a complete waste of time. I was just the worst imaginable scholar you could write on the wall.
Right.
Just, I sucked.
Yeah.
But after I left school, I goosed around for about 2 years, and, basically pissed my parents off, and then teamed up with a bunch of guys who I went to school with, and they said, "We're not doing anything. What do we do?" I said, "Well, let's start a rock band," which was the most unlikely
No.
thing. And they said, "Yeah, okay, I can play the guitar." The other guy said, "I can play the bass." And I said, "Yeah, I can play the drums." That's how it started. After about 2, maybe 3 years of this, it became apparent we weren't going to make any money.
Wow.
So I'd started compensating, supplementing my income by doing commercial work, modeling work, commercial on
How old
camera
were you?
work. I was about 21,
Wow, that's when I started.
22,
Wow. Yeah.
something like that. And I started making really good money out of this.
At commercials
Yeah,
in Australia.
yeah. So we had a big industry back there doing that sort of thing. So this went on for a while. The band faded into oblivion. Then I decided one day that I wanted to act.
Like really act.
Well,
Not commercial act.
having no idea what I just said to myself, I didn't understand what the ramifications were, that the commitments you had to make. As far as I was concerned, it was a way to make a bit of money. That's
Right,
all. Bang.
right.
So I went into the local production office. We only had one. And went into the casting office, which was the size of a telephone box. And the casting director was the only person who can sit down because that was the only chair in the room. So she reaches across, picks up a fistful of scripts, said, "Go away, learn 2, come back in the morning." Okay. So I went away, learned 2, came back. We're in the lobby, and that's where I auditioned. In the lobby with a janitor flopping the hook with a mop.
Wow.
Boom, boom. And he stood there and watched. And at the end he said, "Hey, you're not too bad, are you?" Well, I guess the casting director agreed with him because I started
But
work
you didn't
that
do
day.
acting classes or anything before.
Not at that point, no.
Damn.
There weren't enough people to supply the industry, so they were kind of, the best acting school was in Sydney.
Ah.
And I doubt that you had to prepare a really in-depth audition piece. And I doubt that I would have passed that particular point.
Right.
So anyway, I started doing under 5s and got more and more and more and more and more advanced into it, till finally I learned of a series being cast in Sydney for a new television series. So I loaded up my little truck and told Mum and Dad I'm moving to Sydney. So off I go to Sydney. So I get up there, go in for the audition, and so help me, I got it.
Wow.
I'm playing a regular in a cop show, called The Linkmen. So this goes for about 13 episodes. And I used to hang out a lot with the writers. So I'm round at one of their houses, which wasn't too far from the studio. And we're on the floor sitting down having a drink because they couldn't afford furniture. And there's a knock at the door. So the guy's wife gets up, answers the door, and here's the producer of the show standing there with a glass of scotch in his hand, completely plastered. And he looks around and goes, "They cancelled the show." Falls flat in his face.
No.
So I said, okay, well, I'm done. This has not been a happy experience for me. So I went back to Melbourne, said, "Mum, Dad, I'm going to London." So jumped on a plane, went to London, found a commercial agent over there, started working immediately. But I was working all the way around Europe.
Yeah.
So the producer of the show that I just left, he was ex-BBC. Pretty much most of the staff were BBC. And he said to me before we parted company, he said, "Look, you need a couch to sleep on. Call me up. I've got a house out there." I said, "Okay." Well, sure enough, I called him. He said, "Your timing is perfect." He said, "I'm doing a show over here called Paul Temple. It's about a high-end private detective." And he said, "We're doing this particular episode, and you're perfect for a role in it." I said, "Do I have to audition?" He said, "No, you got the role. I'll call the casting person up, producer, bang, you've got it. Be at this address first thing in the morning." So it was a really interesting role, and I'd never worked on anything quite like it since. It's all about Paul Temple on this panel, and the panel talks about unsolved murders. So I was to play the director of the show. So what nobody knows is that the real murderer, who's never been found out, is on the panel. And there's another guy in the audience who was wrongly convicted of that murder and who's there for revenge. But nobody knows about this, and they took it out of the script so that none of the actors knew, so they could blab the
That's
ending.
pretty cool.
So, well, we get to this particular point where the guy in the audience stands up with a gun. The whole place goes nuts.
Oh, wow.
In the meantime, the real murderer stands up and he's got a gun, and he's sitting next to the hero, Paul Temple, who lunges for him, and they both go through the back of the set. That's not in the script.
Oh, my goodness.
So I'm watching this going, oh, shit. So I stand up and I go tearing out of the booth and downstairs because I knew this is all wrong. We're going to have to redo it.
Right.
We got to fix the set, yada, 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 yada. The audience is on their feet. There's pandemonium in there, and it's real pandemonium. They think this is real.
That's
So-
good, though. I like that.
Everything went off as planned. They were real happy. They said it was the best episode they ever shot.
Wow.
And so that was my start, really, in the industry over there. And I realized one thing. Tristan, you can't just walk through this. You've got to make a commitment to it.
Yeah.
Because every audition I ever went to at that point, there was about 40 people in there who could do the job better than me. They'd all been through classes.
But you got the job.
I got
Why
it.
do you think you got the job?
Oh, I think the director had a lot to do with it, but he'd also seen me work, so I didn't have to audition in front of him.
Right.
It wasn't like he was getting a pig in a poke. I mean, he knew I could do it within a certain range.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this kind of started me off over there.
And you came to LA or?
That wasn't, well, the timeline here, I make it sound like it all happened overnight, but it didn't. It happened over months and months and months.
Right, right.
Finally, I started working discotheques over there.
What'd you do at the discotheque?
I was a DJ.
No! Come on.
There was this one place I worked at as a barman. Yeah, come on. Every actor works as a barman, a cabman, drives a cab.
But what
waits on
kind of
table.
music were you playing at the disco?
Pop stuff.
Like what was like what songs? I need to hear some songs.
What happened was every
great.
bar in London pretty much
Right.
had a little disco set up.
This was what year?
72.
Oh yeah, you were right in it.
So I was working at this place which had just opened, and then they announced where it was a downstairs bar with 3 separate bars attached to it. And they announced then, we're turning this whole area into a disco.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. Came New Year's Eve one night, about the second year. The disc jockey doesn't turn up. New Year's Eve, the place is jumping. Damn. So the manager walks up and says, makes an announcement, can anybody here work the DJ equipment? And I thought about this for 10 seconds, and I thought, come on. How fucking difficult can it be? I mean, there's a record player there. You put a record
Oh
in, need a
my
long bang, bang. Yeah,
goodness.
sure. Yeah, I'll do it. So he goes, okay, get up there and play some music. So I get up there. He'd had all his music up there. I figured out how to work the equipment. Put the first record on, and then I froze. I had no idea what to say. None.
Oh, but you
So I-
figured out how to use it.
Knew how to work the equipment. Didn't know how to do all that snappy chat in between.
I love to love you, baby.
Yeah, all that shit. Didn't know how to do that. So this goes on for a while, and I said nothing but just played music. Finally, the DJ turns up, says, "Thank you, now get out," because I'd messed up his selection of music, and it was all over the
Oh,
place.
wow.
So I thought to myself, you know what, this is fun. And I figured this out. So I got the there's a selection of music you've got to have as a DJ to cater to the crowd. And this guy came up to me after and said, look, there's a guy getting out of the business. I can get you all his music for about £10. I thought, yeah, it's about 600 quid's worth of music there. I said, he must really want out. He said, yeah, he does. So I bought all his stuff and then figured out how to use it properly. At about that time, there was a new club opening in London. So I went along and auditioned for it, and so help me, I got the money. I got the job.
Wow.
So this particular club was huge. It was underneath the Arches in London. It used to be a bomb shelter during the war. Except this guy had bought it and he put a mezzanine. Ceiling was about 50 feet high. He put a mezzanine in with another discotheque and a restaurant up there. And then the main disco, along with an auditorium, was down below. So I'm working the top one, not a soul, not a fat boy and a dog up there for the entire time I worked there. Finally, they came to me and they said, we got no use for you, go. So I got fired. So the guy that was running the music side of it, he called me over and he said, look, this is probably apparent to you, but these people haven't got a clue what they're doing. He said, I'll have you back here in a week. Sure enough, I was back there in a week. In the meantime, London had just discovered commercial radio. Capital Radio was their first commercial stadium, commercial studio. So I went in there and said, look, I've had a bit of experience doing radio work back in Melbourne, which I had. I said, you know, do you need anyone? He said, well, look, we can't put you on air. We're not going to pay you, but we'll have you here as a consultant. So this week or 2 weeks later, I'm walking in there and they said, Tristan, come here. We want to do a live show on a Saturday night. We're looking for a venue. Have you seen anything that might work? And I said, yeah, I know a place. So I took them down to Global Village, which is where I worked. And I said, what about this? They took one look at the mayor's location, the open floor, the stage, and said, oh, yeah, this is perfect. What's the deal? So I called the music director over and I explained to him what the situation was. Then I said, look, we don't want any money. What we want is unlimited plugs, and you tell people who's going to be on stage for that musical act. We had one a night. And it turned out the musical act was going to be Elton John and Kiki D doing Don't Go Breaking My Heart.
No.
It was number 10 on the charts at that particular point. And his career was only just
love
started.
Kiki D and Elton John.
Was incredible.
You saw it?
Yeah, I was there.
When they played?
Yeah, I was there.
And how was it?
It was fantastic.
Like, how is it to be able to, how close were you?
Well, the place was full. The street where you got in was about the width of this.
Okay.
So I'm driving in there one night. I had a beaten up Mini, and I would park it around the corner on the sidewalk.
Right.
Get all my records and stuff and go in. Boom. This one night I'm coming in, and there's hundreds and thousands of people lined up about a quarter of a mile. And I said, wow, I wonder where they're all going. Turns out they were going to Global Village. But they'd shut the doors. They already had 800 people inside, and there's about 2,000 outside trying to get in.
Damn.
And that wasn't going to happen because over there, the fire brigade can shut you down like that.
Yeah.
So I go in, it's a great night, boom. 2 weeks later, I get fired. So he says, look, the guy says, look, don't worry. You'll be back here again in no time at all. So finally, the immigration department caught up with me and said, okay, your visa's up, get out. We've got enough assholes here.
So go to LA?
It's funny. Let's move ahead 10 years. I get here. And nobody much knew about Australia. They didn't know a whole lot. They knew it was there, but they didn't know what it was. And so when I started doing auditions, everyone said, well, what's that accent you're doing? I said, it's my own accent. Oh, we don't want that. I said, what do you want? So I had to sort of come up with some kind of an American accent. I get a call from my agent. He said, I've got this audition. He said, these people want East Africans. I said, East Africans? I said, what's that? He said, exactly. No one's going to know, so go in there. Well, it was
That's
for General
interesting.
Hospital.
Oh, no.
He said, it's a 2-day role. I
No.
said, fine. And I had no idea at that point how big the show was. This was in October 1980.
Monty was.
Oh, yeah, in power. So I go in there. I did 5 readings on 5 different days. Finally, they said, you've got the job. Come in tomorrow for a wardrobe fitting. I said, okay. So I was brought in. I had no name, but I was brought in expressly to beat up the hero, Luke, and then disappear. So half the day goes by, and I get summoned into Gloria's office. And she said, we really like what you're doing. Would you like to stay? I said, yes. Okay.
Did you act cool or were you?
Yeah, I started to kind of sweat a little bit.
Right.
So she said, we'll figure something out. We'll talk to your agent and do the paperwork, et cetera, et cetera. So about 3 days later, I get called to come in. Now, they hadn't written anything. They had nothing for this character.
Right.
So I was just told, Gloria wants you in scenes. You don't have to say anything. You can be reading a magazine, a book, poking around a corner, looking furtive, looking suspicious, yada, yada, yada. Okay. For 2 weeks, I did that.
Right.
Finally, they get caught up in the scripts, and I get told, okay, you are now Agent X, X1. I said, what? Yes, you're Agent X1. I said, that's a stupid name. I said, let me come up with something a little bit better than that. So I went away and thought about it, and I came back. I said, okay, how about his agent CK8? And Norma, Gloria's sister, said, what does CK stand for? I said, well, he can't be a 00 because that's already been taken. But I said, CK can stand for can kill. Number 8. She said, oh, I like that. And from that moment on, that's what he was, CK8.
So you got how many years did you sign initially? 3 years.
Yeah. But that didn't mean anything. In fact,
I understand.
You're only there for 13 weeks.
Yeah,
actually.
I get you. So then you got popular fast.
Very quickly.
And then you and Tony Geary were, what was your characters like? Friends or not friends? Or
we were suspicious of one another. That's the best way to put it. And then finally I rescue him from the throes of Cassadines. And we became good buddies, but not before there was this one big fight scene between him and me and a whole bunch of Cassadine people. And what we did, we were downstairs in the green room, and suddenly we started messing with the script. And he said, hold it, put the script down. He said, let's do it now. So suddenly we had a whole different scene.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, oh, I got to show Gloria this. So we go up into the booth and said, Mom, because there were certain people that called her Mum. Mum, we've something to show you. She's going, what? So we do the scene, and she looks at the both of us and says, okay, keep that, and we'll do it again in a minute. So at the end of the night, they saved up this scene, and she came down and redressed the set. We had stunt guys there who'd taken us through things. And back then, when they had stunts on the set, you were given the option of doing it, or they brought in a double. I always chose to do it, and so did Tony. But to get that right, we had to rehearse. And so we rehearsed during our lunch hour.
Jesus.
That's how it was then.
Wow.
Otherwise, they'd cut it all together. So this one particular fight scene was really heavy, got really nasty. The both of us had our asses kicked. And then at the end of it, we both look at one another and back away. And that was the start of it. After we showed Gloria what we did, we changed all the dialogue. She said, okay, listen to me. That thing, that speech of Tony's, that's got to stay in. You can't mess with that because that figures into something we're doing next week. Tristan, you've got to really not trust him at all, and it's got to come across, and that comes across in the way you've changed the dialogue here, and well, the rest of it, do what you like. And that was it. That's how it started. After that, we were always doing something.
Who was your girl?
Technically, then I didn't have one.
Oh, you didn't have one in the
No.
beginning.
I didn't have a love interest until we got to the island. What was happening is that Laura was working for the Quartermains.
But she'd been raped at this point.
Yes. So I would go in there and try to get information out of her. And then I was taking her out. Well, she'd broken up with Luke at that point, but there was still a
you
connection.
with her?
But I was with her. Not big time, but enough.
Wow.
So Gloria used to love having dinner, used to love taking certain people out for dinner. And so this one particular night, I think it was the second time I'd ever gone out with her, we were at her favorite place, which was the Beverly Hills Hotel. And we're talking away. I'm into my second martini. She was drinking wine. We're talking away, yada, yada, yada. And she stops and she said, what was happening on the show, just to digress, Robert and Laura were becoming a very popular item. And I wasn't truly aware of this, but she said to me one night, this particular night, she said, what do you think of Robert and Laura as an item? I didn't know the significance of the question, so I said, well, I think it's going to work. I said, he's a totally different character. He's older, he's more sophisticated. I said, you're going to have to change her before it's going to work on changing him and the two of them becoming an item. She looked at me and it was never mentioned again.
No.
That was the end of it. That was going to be her plan B. Gloria liked A, B, and C plans.
Yeah.
Tony was the A plan.
Yeah.
I was the B. There really wasn't a C at that time, but later that C became Jack Wagner.
Oh, so then Jack Wagner came in. Oh, we're going to go down the... Okay, so then Jack Wagner came in.
This wasn't for years later.
Okay, but
Years.
so in the beginning, let me get it straight. I need to get this history straight. So it's you, Luke and Laura, and who else? That's it? I mean, I know there's other...
In that
I hate to
particular
be
group, there were just three of us.
Okay, good. How long were you guys doing it?
Well, the actual time on the island that they built was only 5 days.
Oh. But you guys were...
The storyline had gone for about 3 or 4 months.
Okay.
But when we actually get to the island, and it was like a huge location shoot, we were on a boat to go over to Catalina, which was the island. There's the island side of it, and then there's underneath the island where the Cassadines lived.
Yes. Now, who are the Cassadines?
Well, there was John Colicus, a really big-time actor. And there was Teo Penglis, and there were a number of women, one of which turned out to be my love interest.
Okay, so you guys were the thing for a while.
Yeah.
Now before the Luke and Laura wedding.
Yes.
Okay. Then when's the Luke and Laura wedding?
That was in 81, September of 81, I think. Now, story about that. There wasn't going to be a wedding. Elizabeth Taylor had one of her people ring up the show. She was a huge fan.
Right.
And said, look, the guy goes, do you have a place for Elizabeth Taylor? She wants to make an appearance on the show. Well, of course, it's Elizabeth Taylor. What are you going to do? So they literally had to the wedding was planned for the summer of 82. This is back when we had a big summer storyline.
Right.
It was planned for the summer of 82. Well, of course, they had to scramble to bring 8 months of storyline forward. Wow. And there really wouldn't have been a wedding at all.
No?
Because if Elizabeth Taylor hadn't called up and said, I'm not going to appear on the show unless there's a wedding. Unless Luke and Laura get married. That's it.
That's cool.
What was planned, or what actually happened after the wedding, was that Jeannie Francis quit. She went over to CBS to do a new primetime series. Tony started making noises about doing other projects outside of General Hospital. And Gloria had movies of the week lined up on ABC. So the whole thing was in danger of totally fracturing. Elizabeth Taylor changed all that. She brought it all forward so that there was a wedding. Now, after the wedding, Laura left.
That was it from that Laura left?
Laura left to go to CBS. Wow. Tony didn't leave until later.
And how was Elizabeth Taylor?
To work with? Wonderful.
Did you talk to her and stuff?
I had a one-on-one scene with her. And I remember the day she started in there. She walked in with a sloppy joes, walked into makeup, said, hi, everyone, I'm Elizabeth. Everyone's going, what?
Dang.
So she came around and introduced herself to everyone. And then she said, where's Rogers? And somebody pointed, she's in the booth at the end. So she came in, she said, hi. I said, hi. She said, do you think we could run lines together? I said, hell yeah. I said, where are you? She said, I'm in she was in Gloria's office. They'd cleared Gloria's office. And that was her dressing room.
No.
Fish tanks, the whole thing. So off she goes. About 20 minutes later, I knocked on the door and walked into her dressing room. And so she slams the door shut and goes, I know all about you. I'm going, what the hell does that mean? She said, you are a notorious ad-libber.
No.
I said, yeah, maybe. She said, pulls out the script and says, look, what can we do for some of these lines here? I'm not too crazy about this. I said, okay. So we sat down together and we rewrote her script, putting in sharper dialogue.
How about her eyes?
Oh, incredible.
Blue.
Violet.
Violet.
Her favorite flower was sterling roses, and the entire dressing room was full of sterling roses.
Oh, this is amazing.
And stacked to the ceiling, Dom Perignon pink champagne. I had never seen Dom Perignon pink champagne, but back then it was $180 a bottle, and this is 1981. Nowadays, it's $300 a bottle.
Did you talk to her about Richard Burton at all?
Not then. Wrong time.
Yeah.
it wasn't until I started dating her years later.
Wait. You just said something that I don't know if I heard it right. He just said he started dating.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
But Tony was dating her before me.
Well, that I kind of. Wait a minute. Okay, so tell me about you dating her. How was it? How long did you date her? Boy, like a week?
No, it went on for a bit, but she didn't understand completely what I did for a living. I mean, she's been used to walking onto a set, everybody doing exactly what she wants, and she leaves when she wants, even if it's in the middle of a scene.
No. Like in the middle of a scene, she'll leave?
It never happened to us, but I heard it happen.
Wow.
So she would call me up in the studio, and I would say, Elizabeth, look, I'm on the set. I'm in the middle of work. I can't just drop everything and come over there. And she said, why not?
Wow.
I said, babe, it's just not possible. So it's about that time you saw her and Michael Jackson
Yeah.
hit it off.
Yeah.
She needed a play pal
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
We'd gone out to several restaurants. We'd gone to some people's parties together. And that was about it. Now, I stopped seeing her after that. And it wasn't until about maybe a year later, I was involved in a charity called the American Cinema Award Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we raised money for the Motion Picture Retirement Home and Hospital. And it was run by two people, me and David Guest. And this one particular night, we're putting together the show. The shows always went out November, December of every year. Only one. But David turned to me and said, I need somebody really prestigious to give it this award to. I'm not sure who it was. He said, you know Elizabeth Taylor, don't you? I said, yeah. I said, can you call her and get her to do this? I thought, oh. Okay. So I ring her up. She said, yeah, I'll do it. I said, look, we'll work out transport, et cetera, et cetera. So David comes up to me the night of and says, all right, when she gets here, she's your responsibility. I'm going, oh, Christ. And Elizabeth was heavy responsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
I had to make sure the pathway was all clear and there were no lines on the ground and she couldn't trip, and a place to put her where it was private.
Wow.
So the evening went off really well. But after that, of course, it became an institution. David would say, can you get Elizabeth to present this award and that award, yada, yada, yada. So I said, okay. I said, where's the money going? I said, you've got to tell her that the money we're giving to her goes to AIDS. It's a big thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So that always got her. But every time I rang up after that, she would go, okay, what do you two assholes want me to do now?
All right, I want to ask you, I want to get into what it was like to be that famous at that time. And I also want you to get into the drugs and everything, because I know you'll talk. I've had other people here from that era. They talk, but they don't. How was it being that famous? Because you were hella famous.
Mm. The character was very recognizable. But it really all changed after 1982. Why did it change? That was because that was the year that Australia won the America's Cup. And the America's Cup was the most prestigious yachting award in history. America had had it for over 100 years. Australia comes along and kicks their ass. Front page news everywhere.
Right.
In fact, The day that it happened, I was on set. Floor manager came over, said, "Okay, cut, everyone." They wheeled out a monitor and said, "Tristan, you deserve to see history being made. Your country is about to kick our ass
Wow.
and win this award." And they did, convincingly. After that, people looked at me a little bit differently.
Wow.
They would say, "Okay, tell us about Australia. Not just, well, what's it like to pat a koala bear or a kangaroo? But, tell us about the differences and this and that." And the questions were much more intelligent. And where do we go? And what are the seasons like? And what's the food like? And yada, yada, yada.
So when you went out to a dinner and stuff, just people always coming up to you and stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? You didn't like, was that something you liked, didn't?
It was an intrusion because
Wow.
people didn't care. They would pull up a chair and sit down at your table.
Damn.
And my girlfriend, the one who's now my wife, she said, "Screw this. We just got to stop going to public places." And we did. We went to places which were not quite so public.
Yeah.
You found out.
But there was at that time, soaps were like humongous,
Yes.
as opposed to how they are, especially now. Let's
Yep.
say you had 30 million people watching that Luke and Laura wedding.
Correct.
So you guys were as famous as nighttime
Yes.
series.
And we had nighttime people who wanted to be on the show.
Wow.
Yeah, it had changed, but it really wasn't all that bad in California. Because, LA.
No, the East Coast is better.
East Coast is terrible.
Even if I go to the East Coast now, I'm like the mayor,
Yeah,
which is cool.
yeah,
But in LA, nobody even knows anything.
yeah.
I'm like, Sonny, yeah, okay, so what? But
I mean, a couple of personal appearances I did in New York were they were dangerous.
oh yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, they had police on horseback and
Yeah,
dogs
yeah.
and oh shit, it was crazy stuff.
So let me ask you something. How do you feel, because you're a culture and growing up in Australia, about mental health? What is it? Is it like I'm Spanish, right? My father's from Nicaragua, my mother's from San Salvador. And there was not a lot known about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was brought up to be macho. And I think maybe that's the way it is in Australia, right? You've got to be macho.
Back then, yes.
Yeah, back then, yeah, right.
Most of the guys I hung out with offset would not touch a joint or have anything to do with drugs. Getting drunk, that was acceptable.
Yes.
But nothing else.
Yes.
Nothing else nothing else stronger than that. So up until I left the country in 1979, I had never seen any evidence of people smoking or doing anything, certainly not cocaine. I mean, and as for heroin,
No.
it was unknown.
But Australia's a lot of drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And that's covering up people that have anxiety, depression. They drink to self-medicate.
We had the worst road toll in the world per capita. The worst.
The worst what?
Road toll, drunk driving,
Oh.
fatalities. Australia was number one in the world.
Wow.
And then the first thing they did back in the start of the 60s, they introduced seatbelts into cars. So suddenly, if you bought a used car that didn't have seatbelts, you had to go out and have them fitted. I remember. This had an effect, but it didn't stop fatalities, but it certainly slowed them down a bit. And then they started to enact much heavier fines for drunk driving.
Yeah.
In fact, Australia became the poster child for punishment for drunk driving.
Oh, really?
America got its ideas from us.
Wow. And why do you think people drink so much in Australia? What do you think is the?
I think
'Cause
over
that's a
there,
known thing. I mean,
sure.
yeah,
I think it's more a social thing than anything else. Sure, there's a lot of it goes on to hide anxiety and mask it, et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera.
yeah.
But in my experience, you know, all of my friends that I hung out with back then, they all drank, but they didn't drink. None of them had any emotional problems.
Really?
None that I was aware of.
Wow.
I mean, they might have had stuff in secret, but
Yeah.
nobody was getting up in the morning and starting the day with a drink.
Right.
It was all about social events later on and stuff that you did in the evening. And all of the clubs that I worked, yeah, I didn't start to drink until after it was doors shut, everyone told to go home.
Right.
Then you sat down with your crew, and then you sat down and had a drink. But it was looked upon more as a social reward
Yeah.
more than something, you know, I'm going to sit down and hide the fact that I'm not happy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I can't point to a time that I ever sat down and had a drink where I was, you know, pissed off about something, because that doesn't seem to help.
No. No.
Better to deal with it. And I mean, I'm not going to get into that, but how you deal with stuff like this. But yes, Australia is known as a beer drinking country.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably a wine drinking country too, for that matter now.
Let's talk about Studio City. You kicked ass in that.
Yes.
I've seen enough scenes to know.
Different character.
Yeah.
It's a,
Sean Kanan, right?
right.
Yeah.
20 years ago, I could not have played that character.
Right.
The older you get in this business, your body gives you permission
Yeah.
to do roles
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
to prostrate yourself, to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
But you get the permission to do it, and you're ready to do it.
Yeah.
There are times then I wouldn't have been ready to do that role. But the role of Doc was kind of given to me to sort of, okay, it's written here, here's all the dialogue, make it work. That was Sean's direction.
All right, let's conclude this. I want to say, Tristan, it was very interesting with Tristan, as I knew it would be. That's why I said this is going to be a fun one, because he's a really damn good storyteller. And the Elizabeth Taylor stuff was phenomenal, and the General Hospital stuff. He was a DJ. There's a lot going on, and I'm so happy that you came, bro.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Right on.